My name is Doug Evans, and I'm both humbled and privileged to share with you a brief testimony as to what God has done in my life when I began to actively share the gospel. There was a time when I lived my Christian faith inwardly. I thought that a self-centered church life, gathering together with fellow believers, was more than enough, and that by simply living a Christian example in a secular world, that's all that God required of me. But we know that's not what God wants. And through adversity and trial, the Lord worked in my heart, forming me and shaping me. You see, everything that I had and worked for my entire professional life was forever changed in the aftermath of 9/11. Using a perfect balance of disappointment and faith, God refined and strengthened me. The Lord worked in my heart to open my eyes to see that the knowledge of the gospel of Jesus Christ was something not to be kept to myself, but rather to be actively and passionately shared with all whom he placed in my path. Now that I've set the stage for the work that God has done in me, let me now tell you how the Lord has used me to build his church. As Rob said, my profession is commercial aviation. I'm a pilot and I fly for a major air carrier. And as such, I'm continuously exposed to a vast number of people, to include other pilots as well as passengers. And can I say that being locked in a cockpit behind a Kevlar door at 37,000 feet gives new meaning to the old phrase, a captive audience. God has many unique ways of making his voice heard. And although the world is my mission field and I treat it as such, I've been given opportunities to share my faith with those I fly with. And on one occasion, I was paired with a pilot who over a 4-day period relayed to me about the personal challenges he was dealing with as the volatile commercial airline industry just fell down upon him. You see, life was wearing him down. Anger and bitterness was starting to consume him. He was no longer able to overcome adversity through his own good works and through his own resourcefulness, and it was starting to take a toll on his marriage and destroy his life in other areas. And I attempted to subtly witness to this gentleman throughout our rotation, but he just couldn't get past himself. He couldn't get past his anger to look to God for what it was that he needed. Well, while on a layover in Lexington, Kentucky, I was out getting lunch, and I came across, quite unexpectedly, a museum exhibit. It was a traveling expedition of the history of the Bible. And I would tell you that I found it by accident because I got lost, but that's probably not what you want to hear from a professional pilot. So, again, it's God's timing. And his opportunity was revealed to me because we showed up that next day to fly the airplane, and we were on a long delay. So now we're locked in this cockpit together with lots of time to pass. And he again started going about how his life wasn't what it was that he wanted. And he said, oh, by the way, what did you do on your layover? And I said, well, knowing that he had a big fascination in history, I said, I went to a museum. Really? What kind of museum was that? Well, it was a museum about the Bible. And that's the greatest book ever written, and in it, it'll have all the answers for what it is that you're searching for what it is that your life doesn't have, for what it is that you were working towards but could never achieve on your own. And then I began to witness to him using the flight plan that we use, a document that navigates a jet aircraft through time and space from an origination city to a destination city. You see, it was the only blank piece of paper I had. And through the follow-up team, I learned a skill. And I sketched out the bridge illustration, which is a simple picture to share your faith with somebody that doesn't know Jesus. And I used a simple explanation with a couple of Bible verses. And you see the irony of this? You see that I was using a flight plan to get somebody to the ultimate destination, to heaven, but to be with Jesus? One of the verses I shared with this captain was John 3:16. For God so loved the world. The captain told me that for years he'd driven past a barn to and from his neighborhood, and on the side of that barn was painted John 3:16. And until that very moment, until I shared with him what that was, what it meant, and how that would help him overcome his struggle in life, he never knew. It was just something painted on the side of a barn. The opportunity to serve the Lord exists not only with those I fly, but with visitors who come to First Evangelical Free Church. I work with the follow-up team, an evangelical outreach mechanism that seeks to share the gospel with people that aren't believers or help people that are believers connect with our church. Every week the team receives names of those who fill out a connection card, what's contained in the seat back pocket in front of you. We then attempt to make contact with one of those who's reached out to us. And on one occasion, I had a follow-up contact that started out Not unlike a lot of others, I left several voicemails, and all were unreturned, and a bit disheartened, I was about to give up on this person when I decided, after God's leading, to give it just one more try. And this time when I called, a voice answered at the other end of the phone, and the person explained they were very glad to hear from me, and they were very glad that I reached out to them, but their life was really busy right now, and they couldn't talk with me, and that they would call me back. And so 2 weeks later, disappointed, I just kind of gave up, and I just gave it all to God, thinking that he really wasn't sincere in our outreach. And one day I was flying back home from Atlanta, Georgia. That's where all my trips begin and end. And if you think you have a bad commute in Austin, Texas, try getting to Georgia back and forth 4 times a month. Some people have a 30-minute commute to work. I have a 3-hour commute to work. And during that time, I use it to glorify the Lord. I'll read the Bible, other spiritual development materials, share my faith with other passengers. Well, one day I was running a little bit early from my flight, very unusual. And the last flight to Austin was running a little bit late. And I was literally the last guy to get on this airplane. And as I was walking back, I was asking God, just put somebody in my path that needs to hear your word. Let me be that light and salt. And so I was led to a seat. I could have sat in any open seat, and I was led to one. And I sat down next to this gentleman, and I opened up a book, and I was reading a Billy Graham book at the time. And he looked over and took notice of what it was that I was reading and introduced himself, and I did the same. And he asked, where do you go to church in Austin? And I said, well, I go to First Evangelical Free Church. And he says, tell me your name again. And I said, my name's Doug Evans. And he looked straight at me and he said, you're the guy that's been trying to get a hold of me. You see, he lost his cell phone, and my number was in it. He didn't really know a way to get back in touch with me. And so, you see, that's what happens. God will actually move commercial airline schedules to accommodate his needs. But you might be sitting there saying, well, you know, that's your work, that's not mine, you know. How did I get to where I am today? Well, let me tell you, God removed something from me, my bricks that I was building for me, my tar that I was building for me, my temple that I was building for me. And that one thing was flying airplanes, believe it or not. And I got laid off from my commercial airline job in the post 9/11 industry meltdown. And in that time, God used adversity to scatter me, to strengthen me, to form me and shape me. And for this reason, God convicted me to combine my passion for aviation with my newly discovered passion for evangelism. And my mission field is at 37,000 feet. My mission field is here in Austin, Texas. My mission field is here in this church. My mission field is wherever God puts somebody in my path. Next week, I'm going to Charleston. In July, I'm going to China. There's no telling what God will do. When Jesus asked Peter if he loved him, Peter told him to go feed his sheep. He didn't say, Jesus told Peter to go feed him his sheep. He didn't say, Jesus didn't say, hang out with the other disciples, go to a nice church, find a comfortable life, hang out there. No. Jesus sent Peter into the world to go feed his sheep. Romans 10, the Bible asks, how can they call upon the one they have not believed in? And how can they believe in the one whom they have not heard? How can they hear without someone preaching to them? And how can they preach unless they are sent? How beautiful are the feet of those who bring the good news. Well, the Great Commission, as Rob said, Matthew 28 says, go and make disciples. The key word is go. Go. And who exactly will it that will go and do this? Isaiah 6:8, I heard the voice of the Lord calling me. Whom shall I send? And who will go for us? And then I said, here I am, Lord, send me. Certainly sharing your faith is not without risk. You might ask, well, how can I witness to a world that's so impossibly broken? What could I say that might make a difference? What if I say something wrong, or what if that person's not willing to listen? Matthew 10, 19 and 20 says, don't worry about what you're going to say. At that time, you will be given what to say. For it is not you that is speaking, but the Spirit of your Father speaking through you. I ask you, how did you come to know Jesus as your Lord and Savior? Who overcame their fear to feed Jesus' sheep? Who walked across a busy road to find you? Who overcame a difficult situation in an office to find you? How did you come to know the love of Jesus? Every day, I pray that God will put someone in my path to witness to, and he does. If you are willing, he will use you. I challenge you to ask God to put those in your path for his glory, and you'll be amazed not only what he does in those around you, you will be amazed in what God does within you.